Good morning. I hope that everyone's having a great day so far, and appreciate your time for sitting in on this webinar. I am Hideyuki Terashima, and I am a environmental geologist with the Illinois State Water Survey, which is located at the University of Illinois. I've been working on the wateropera.org program since 2014, and currently oversee the day-to-day, which involves ensuring the most up-to-date information and resources are showcased within our website. During this presentation today, I'll be introducing to you what website wateropera.org is and what our program does, how it's a useful program to help water and wastewater operators or water and wastewater professionals around the country to help them maintain compliance and to help them improve public health while focusing on a specific topic for today, biosolids management. Before I start, I wanted to quickly go over some housekeeping stuff. This webinar will be presented on the GoToWebinar platform. For those that have not used GoToWebinar before, you should see a console similar to what I have shown on the slide. There's a section, or there's a question section where there's a text box where you can submit any questions you might have throughout the webinar, which we will review at the very end. So throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to throw a question on there. The webinar will also be recorded and will be uploaded to our wateropera.org YouTube channel once the webinar is over. For the first time, we actually have been pre-approved to provide 1.5 wastewater hours for Illinois licensed operators. But for those of you from other states, we will be more than happy to offer you a certificate of attendance or help you complete any form required by your certificate body if you would like to request CEUs for attending this webinar. When you register for this webinar, the registration form should have asked you whether you will be requiring a certificate or not. If you said yes, we should be able to automatically issue the certificate once the webinar is over. But if you haven't and are interested, please feel free to email us at info@wateropera.org requesting a certificate of attendance. And if you do email us, please ensure to include that you attended the Biosolids webinar. We do have a lot of webinars that we do around here, and we want to make sure that we're issuing you the correct certificate. Additionally, once we have this webinar recording uploaded to our YouTube channel, if you watch it, we won't be able to issue a certificate, so please keep that in mind. So this will be the outline for today's presentation. I'll start off by introducing to you what website wateropera.org is and outline the types of information or resources operators can find, or anyone that attends or anyone that accesses our website can find through the tools that our website offers that will help you further your knowledge on water and wastewater management topics. I've done similar presentations in the past, but we've always focused on a specific topic and highlighted resources related to that topic. And for this presentation, I'll focus more on highlighting resources related to biosolids management at publicly owned treatment works. So over the past decades, there's been a big shift on how the wastewater sector manages biosolids. Instead of just focusing on disposal, there's now a stronger emphasis on sustainability and resource recovery. Many systems are finding ways to turn what was once considered waste product into a resource, maybe recovering energy through anaerobic digestion, producing high quality biosolids for land application, or even capturing nutrients like phosphorus or nitrogen for reuse. At the same time, operators are facing more and more challenges, environmental regulations that are affecting their operations, changing regulations, stricter land application standards, and right now there's a huge growing concern around PFAS, even microplastics, and a lot more emerging contaminants that are being studied or monitored. And these added complexities do affect biosolids management as well, and they can really impact a utility's maybe land application permit. It can increase treatment costs if they need to ensure that biosolids are treated better. And it might also limit reuse options if there are concerns about emerging contaminants in biosolids. So I wanted to focus on biosolids management as a topic for today and include information as well as resources that highlight how communities can improve their biosolids management, or how information that will help wastewater utilities to improve how they develop their biosolids program. I'll then highlight examples of publicly available resources that's been developed by various organizations and how you can find these resources through using the tools that our website offers. Then finally, I'll briefly discuss some of the other features that you can find on our site, and we'll go to our Q&A session. So what exactly is wateropera.org? It's a website that we developed at the University of Illinois in collaboration with the Rural Community Assistance Partnership, or RCAP, with funding from US EPA. It serves as a clearinghouse of publicly available resources to help water and wastewater system operators with a focus on small systems. We basically have a team of staff that scour the internet to find and collect any kind of publicly available or open access information and resource that is useful for operators. And we catalog it, and we provide a means to search and access the information easier through our website. So rather than having to sift through pages of search results on Google or any search platform, we made it easier to find and search for these relevant resources for operators to save you time. Also, you might find a useful resource through Google, but you might find out that it's behind a paywall or it requires membership to access that specific resource, even if it's free. A lot of the resources from big organizations are like this, like AWWA, WEF. They develop a lot of great manuals, but they're very expensive. Everything you can find on our website is publicly available information, and there shouldn't be any fee or registration required to use our website. Additionally, if operators do have trouble finding certain information, they can always call us or email us, and it's part of our public service. We'll try to help you find that specific information that you're looking for, or we will try to connect you with people that have more technical knowledge that can help you answer some of those tougher questions that we might not have the experience being able to answer. So how do we find these resources, and what exactly do we look for? So we have a database of over 800 organizations. These are national organizations like EPA, AWWA, or WEF, as well as individual state agencies that deal with water and wastewater permitting, regional associations that do training around the country, and even vendors that sometimes host webinars or even develops white papers that are useful for operators. Each of our staff visits their websites and looks for any information on training events, webinars, conferences, pretty much any kind of event that offers CUs for operators, we collect the information. Even if they don't offer credits, if an event is free and useful for operators, like a lot of EPA, EFCN webinars, we will collect the information as well. We also look for any publicly available resource like fact sheets, reports, manuals, past conference presentations, any kind of technical resource or information material that can help or will be helpful for operators, especially small system operators. We try to focus and try to find those. We've been searching and collecting for these resources since 2009, and we currently have a database or library of over 15,000 documents, and we catalog around 11,000 events every year. So it kind of very highlights how much information that we do manage and collect, and highlights the number of resources you can find on our website. And our website was actually first called smallwatersupply.org. We've been around for a while. We did rebrand to wateropera.org around 2016, but the website was originally developed for operators of rural communities where they might not have had the time to search for technical resources, since in many rural communities, the operator running their facility may not even be their full-time operator. They can have a different full-time job. Additionally, back then, there was still a lack of good internet infrastructure, allowing providing internet bandwidth to download larger PDF files, even watch videos. So again, we wanted to make a website where we include a short description of the resource, relevant resources to help operators save time accessing or finding the resource that would benefit them the most. So after we collect those information on resources and training events, we display that information on our nationwide calendar and library tool on our website. So our nationwide calendar tool is meant to help operators, again, save time from having to go through various training providers' website and find all the relevant training events in a single calendar. Similarly, we collect the most useful publicly available resources and display the information on our document library. Both the calendar and the library does have a extensive search functionality. So you can search for event on certain topics. You can search for training events in certain states. You can even search for resources developed by certain organizations, specific resource types. There's just a lot of ways to refine your search, which is awesome. The filtering option that we offer. And for every entry that we do catalog, we provide a complete summary and the most important details about it. So for documents, we'll make sure to provide a short summary of how it's a useful document for operators, what an operator might learn from reading it or watching it, just anything that might help operators decide that's a resource they might want to look at. And on the same for the event side, we'll make sure to include any information on what's covered during the training events, how many CUs it offers, what states the CU is approved in, contact information, what the agenda is for a conference, just any information you'll need to decide whether it's a training event you would want to access. In the past, we've heard from a lot of operators that say that they've found a nationwide calendar, especially to be a useful tool to find events that they never knew existed. We do try to go out of our way to collect information about training events from training providers that might have of less internet presence, like those that only share meeting notices through emails. Especially in Illinois, we do have a lot of those kind of smaller regional organizations that send us information about training events so that we're actually capturing a wide variety of events available. But our program is nationwide. We do cover training events from around the country. We've actually even had vendors reach out to us asking to host some of their information, even training events. But generally for those, we make sure that they're actually pre-approved to offer credits. Sometimes they aren't pre-approved and they just want to highlight their products. We try not to list those. We always want to make sure that whatever we feature is educational and informational for operators. There's even a variety of state primacy agencies that list as a state resource, which we're very gracious about, but we do have a decent amount of reputation throughout the country. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do deal with a wide range of topics, and every resource that we do add to our website is tagged with a specific category, which it gets integrated into our search engine. Here is a list of those categories that we use to categorize training events, as well as documents that we catalog. Just to kind of give you an idea of what information that you can, or what topics you can easily search using the category filters. I'm also a big fan of making graphics, so I kind of wanted to include like a chart or something visual on here. But this pie chart specifically shows the breakdown of the categories or topics covered from around 12,000 training events that we added during 2024. So it really highlights just how many of the events we add are related to operation maintenance, certification exam prep, just basic water and wastewater treatment. But I did want to highlight that we do have a biosolids category, 2.5%. It's not that much, but we do find a decent amount of training events for biosolids, and we do tend to try to catalog a lot more of those biosolids resources, especially right now. There are a lot more material being developed by states, as well as at the federal level about PFAS and biosolids. We try to make sure we have the most up-to-date information on our website. So during this presentation, I'll be highlighting various biosolids management focused resources that are applicable for publicly owned wastewater treatment works. A majority of the resources I've included address information like proper use and disposal methods for biosolids, best management practices for developing and maintaining a successful biosolids management program, information on processes and technologies like stabilization and dewatering options, methods, sampling analysis protocols to ensure their sampling their sampling method is in compliance with the biosolids rule, and other information like maintaining proper biosolids quality, and again how PFAS and other emerging contaminants are impacting conventional biosolids management strategies. So many of these resources come from organizations like EPA, which has a long history of regulating biosolids through their Clean Water Act. Their program sets the national standards for biosolids disposal and reuse. We do have we do catalog a lot of information as well from WEF, or the Water Environmental Federation. They're a technical and educational organization that supports wastewater professionals around the country and even around the globe. They do actively engage in water quality related policy discussions, and they do traditional research. They do provide training, and they do help to fill those to help wastewater utilities navigate the recent challenges or upcoming challenges that's facing the wastewater sector. Some state agencies often have their own dedicated biosolids program as well, where some of them may focus on developing resources specific to their states. Some states do have state-specific regulations that are a little bit more stringent than the federal standards. If you ever have questions about, how biosolids are managed within their state, it's definitely recommended to reach out to their state's biosolids program or their primacy agency to get more information about, how biosolids are managed within their state. There are also a bunch of biosolids focused groups like the National Biosolids Partnership, which is run by WEF, in collaboration with the National Association of Clean Water Agency, as well as EPA, to support best practices for improving biosolids management across the US. But there's also regional biosolids focused associations that we do have a bunch of resources on our library. So just to give you a brief introduction or overview of biosolids, since some of you may not be operators, some of you might be researchers, scientists that might be interested, that might have heard about webinar and are interested. Some of you might be state folks. Some of you might be new operators. But just briefly, what exactly are biosolids? So biosolids, often referred to as sewage sludge, are nutrient-rich organic material that is produced during wastewater treatment process. When wastewater enters a treatment plant, solid materials are usually separated from the liquid. These solids or sewage sludge then they get processed further to reduce pathogens. Usually odor removal is done during this step, and they try to stabilize the organic matter as much as possible. The resulting stabilized product is often referred to as biosolids, which can then be safely disposed or reused. But it is important to understand that biosolids are not just waste. They're actually contain a lot of valuable renewable resources. Since they're primarily composed of organic matter, they include essential plant nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. They do include trace metals, as well as some level of water. Because of this composition, biosolids can be beneficially reused, most commonly as a soil conditioner or as a fertilizer because of those nutrients that it holds. But not all biosolids are the same. Depending on how they're treated, they can fall into Class A or Class B biosolids, each with specific regulatory requirements for pathogen reduction and how they can be reused later. So for example, Class A biosolids are treated to a level that allows for basically unrestricted land application use, while Class B biosolids have a little bit more limited use and require additional site restrictions and management practices. Municipalities should have again, biosolids management program or plan that kind of outlines how biosolids are produced within their community, what quality biosolids they aim to meet, and how they will be, or there a plan on how they will be disposed or reused. And this kind of plan ensures that their process is in compliance with the regulations, does aim to protect public health, and supports sustainable resource recovery if that's a goal for a municipality. So now that we know what biosolids are, let's quickly talk about what happens when they are produced or how biosolids are managed in general, and basically what biosolids management is. So what exactly is biosolids management? It's a process of safely handling, treating, and ultimately recycling or disposing of biosolids. The goal is to protect public health and the environment while maximizing beneficial reuse of this resource. There are three common options municipalities use for managing biosolids once they're produced. First and the most common example, which I mentioned before, is beneficial reuse, is land application. This is a widely used method where treated biosolids are spread on agricultural land or even reclaimed land to enrich the soil and to help improve the natural soil environment. These biosolids provide the valuable nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus that soil needs to improve the soil structure, as well as improve moisture retention. When done properly, land application can support sustainable farming and land restoration. The second option is landfilling. In this method, biosolids are disposed of in designated landfill sites, often mixed with municipal solid waste. While it's a straightforward disposal option, it's generally considered less sustainable because, again, you're just disposing of it. You're not really taking advantage of the nutrients inside within the biosolids, and this does also contribute to increasing landfill volume. which, a lot of municipalities, they're starting to not have enough space for landfill or sites. So it's kind of an important factor to consider. And lastly, incineration. In this process, biosolids are combusted at higher temperatures, which significantly reduces the volume and does produce inert ash, which can later be disposed, since it's easier to handle and transport compared to biosolids. And in some cases, it can also be repurposed as construction material, which I saw some case studies of municipalities doing. Um, However, incineration does require more energy, does require that specific infrastructure, and there's always a concern about air emissions with burning stuff. Ultimately, the choice between these methods depends on the local regulation, economic factors, viability, as well as the community's specific environmental goals. Now to just slide. Oh, here we go. I also wanted to provide a historical context of how biosolids have been managed in the U.S. And this slide kind of outlines how biosolids have been managed over time. But very briefly, from the 1800s to the 1970s, the primary goal of wastewater treatment was pretty simple: remove solids from water to protect public health. At that time, sludge was considered a waste product, and disposal methods were basically, environmentally harmful. Landfilling, which is still done, incineration, same, but they sludge was often disposed through ocean dumping, which was kind of common, and because there was very little regulation, and the focus was, trying to get rid of the material, not managing it sustainably. But after the 1970s and through the 1990s, things began to change. The Clean Water Act was, set in place in 1972, and then it was later amended in '87 with a major turning point. These laws improved the regulation of sewage disposal and set the standards for water quality. And then in 1988, the Ocean Dumping Ban Act basically prohibited the dumping of sewage sludge into the ocean, which kind of forced coastal cities to find land-based alternatives. This time period also marked kind of a shift from disposal to a more regulated and responsible management. And from 1990 onwards to today, biosolid management has become much more sophisticated, and it's kind of focused more on beneficial reuse. In '93, the EPA's biosolids rule, or 40 CFR Part 503 or Part 503 rule, was introduced, and this regulation kind of introduced a framework for, how to safely treat, use, and dispose biosolids. And this is around the time where the goal shifted or shifted towards recycling biosolids as a resource, especially through land application. Today, a lot of researchers and municipalities view, biosolids not just as a waste, but as a renewable resource. They do contain essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which can be extracted and reused to recover or used to enrich soils. Biosolids can also be used to recover organic carbon, produce biogas for energy, and even there's a lot more innovative processes to convert biosolids into material like biochar for soil improvement. And there's a lot more research going on, which is always interesting to see. But this timeline really kind of highlights how the shift from disposal to sustainable recycling happened for biosolids. And to better understand how wastewater systems are managing biosolids today, we can actually look at EPA's National Snapshot, which is compiled from their annual biosolids reports. So every year, EPA collects biosolids data from around 2,200 larger wastewater systems across 41 states. These are the states where EPA is a permitting authority. These facilities are required to submit annual biosolid reports under the Clean Water Act, or basically the Part 503 rule. And the goal is to monitor how they're being treated, used, disposed of within our country, and which kind of helps to better understand these practices and to better protect public health and environment. And this data can really help EPA track those trends, identify potential risks, and help them support informed decision making at the federal level. And according to the 2023 report, the most common method of biosolids management in the US is, as expected, land application, which accounted for around 60% of biosolids use. Landfilling came next at 24%, with incineration having the least amount of use at 14%. Again, I did mention earlier that these are from larger systems, specifically from 41 states. there are 9 states where they are designated to be the permitting agency. Those states might have their own state-specific data, especially if you're looking for how biosolids are being used within your state. Again, I would recommend reaching out to your state's biosolids program because I'm sure they have a lot more local information about biosolids usage, which can help you decide which option might be the best for your specific state. And since we mentioned the annual report, which is a requirement for some systems, here are the basic general regulatory requirements for biosolids management in the U.S. So for public-owned treatment works that treat and dispose biosolids, they are subject to Part 503 rule, which is often referred to as, again, the biosolids rule. These rules are designed to ensure that biosolids are managed in a way that protects public health and the environment. So for the first treatment requirements, so before biosolids can be used or disposed of, sewage sludge must be treated to reduce pathogens and minimize vector attraction, which means it shouldn't attract any kind of disease-carrying organisms like flies or rodents. Based on the level of treatment, biosolids are then classified as either Class A or Class B biosolids, which outline how they can be used. Second, pollutant limits. Biosolids must meet strict limits for heavy metals and other contaminants before they can be land applied. These limits are risk-based and vary depending on the disposal method implemented. Next are monitoring and reporting requirements. Larger facilities are required to submit a biosolids annual report to EPA. Again, this report includes monitoring results for pollutants and pathogens. They need to contain information on quantities and characteristics of biosolids produced, treatment processes used, and the final use or locations where they were disposed or the disposal sites. Not all facilities are required to report this, but for facilities with a design flow of over 1 MGD or those that are serving 10,000 people or more, they will be required to submit a report. Small systems are often exempt from those reporting requirements, but again, there are 9 states: Arizona, Idaho, Michigan, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wisconsin that have authority to administer their own biosolids permitting programs, which probably do have more stringent reporting requirements, especially for it, which may also include small systems. So again, if you're unsure, reach out to your state's programs. They will be able to answer what your specific requirements are. Now under Part 503, biosolids management is a collaborative effort which involves several important parties, each with their distinct roles and responsibilities. I just kind of want to highlight those parties involved. Starting with the regulators, EPA is the federal agency that sets the minimal national standards for biosolids quality, treatment, management practices, and reporting requirements. State agencies may also be authorized by EPA to enforce their own permitting program, often having more stringent requirements compared to federal rules. Even if states don't have their own program, a majority of states will still have a biosolids related resource or guidelines, especially through their environmental or public health agencies, which definitely might be worth checking out. After the regulators, then we have the treatment facilities, which are the producers of those biosolids. They're the ones that are responsible for ensuring that biosolids meet the regulatory standards for disposal or reuse. Then we also have the biosolids users, which include land appliers and the haulers, who are the entities that transport biosolids from the treatment plant to wherever they're going to be applied and then apply them to those permitted sites, as well as farmers and landowners who use biosolids as soil amendments, and they might be the ones that are actually offering their land where biosolids can be applied. The public also plays a role in shaping how biosolids are managed by providing input during permit reviews, by attending community meetings, voicing their opinions, and raising local concerns about local projects. And researchers also do help by advancing science. They improve best practices, they test innovative treatment methods, and they provide the data that helps regulators set those regulations. After reviewing the resources available on biosolids, I did notice that a lot of what's available, especially from EPA, are pretty old. They do date back to the early 2000s. And while the basics of biosolids management haven't really changed in the past 2 decades, the challenges that we're facing today certainly have. As many of you are aware, one of the most prominent concerns affecting the water industry right now, or the water sector right now, is PFAS. These are synthetic contaminants that are extremely persistent in the environment and can accumulate in soils and crops. Because there are currently no federal standards for PFAS and biosolids, some states have taken action. For example, Maine has totally banned the land application or the sale of biosolids from wastewater treatment plants due to those PFAS concerns and risks. This has had major implications for how biosolids management, or about how biosolid programs are managing biosolids within the Northeast region. Another emerging issue is microplastics. These are tiny plastic particles that can become concentrated in biosolids through wastewater treatment. And when land applied, they may disrupt microbial communities, and those plastic particles can potentially enter the food chain. There's still a lot more research ongoing to better understand their long-term effects on soil health and crop productivity, but it is a growing concern. There's a lot more research out there for microplastics. Pharmaceuticals, personal care products, these have been a concern for quite a while now, and they do similarly persist in biosolids and can leach into the soil and groundwater if not treated for properly. Public perception is another major challenge that a lot of utilities or biosolids programs have to take into account. Negative headlines and growing awareness of contaminants have led to declining public trust in the safety of biosolids, which can lead to local opposition, making it harder to find permitted sites for a land application. All these factors contribute to those increased costs and limited alternatives. Restrictions on land application are pushing more biosolids usage towards landfilling and incineration, but landfill space is shrinking, and incineration comes with its own environmental financial hurdles. And according to recent surveys, biosolids disposal costs have increased by over 50% in some regions, and utilities are having to transport or haul those biosolids farther or invest in additional treatment, which is an increased burden. And we do see headlines about this in news articles, even today. Here are example news articles where they feature, PFAS in biosolids and how that's a concern. They really do make the headlines kind of concerning, and that can affect public's perception as well. But EPA has awarded millions in research grants towards universities, as well as organizations studying PFAS treatment technologies, better understanding plant uptake and environmental impacts. And these efforts do help build a stronger scientific foundation for future regulations and best management practices. And that's one of the news articles I do have features in the middle. So while the headlines are concerning, it is also important to recognize that there are a lot of scientific and research going into understanding, improving regulatory compliance, or improving regulations as well, and helping communities to be better prepared to adapt to those changing regulations. Now let's take a closer look at the 3 common methods of biosolids management. So again, these are the land application, incineration, landfill. For land application, this method involves applying the treated biosolids to the land, typically agricultural fields or reclaimed land sites. They act as a fertilizer and soil conditioner. It's widely used because it's cost effective, it is sustainable, and it does support beneficial reuse by recycling nutrients back into the soil. But this method can be subject to public scrutiny, since it's going to be, if it's a landowner, they're going to have biosolids on their land. There might be issues with odor as well, and there is also, again, about very growing concern about emerging contaminants that may potentially enter their land, which may affect the availability of land application projects. Incineration, so this method uses high temperature in a controlled furnace to combust organic matter in biosolids, reducing them to a smaller volume of inert ash. This process does offer the maximum amount of volume reduction, and it's very effective in contaminant destruction and there is a potential for energy recovery in the form of like heat capture as well. But this process can lead to extremely high costs, require strict air permitting, and does raise the question about how ash will be disposed and long-term sustainability, especially if PFAS can survive the incineration process, or other emerging contaminants can survive that incineration process. And finally, landfill disposal. This involves transporting the dewatered biosolids to a permanent municipal solid waste landfill. It's a very simple, straightforward method, offering better containment and less public opposition because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. However, it's also costly and it does waste the potential for those nutrients that's in the biosolids. And again, limited landfill availability and capacity does affect how whether biosolids would be able to be disposed of through landfill. So each method has its own trade-offs. Municipalities should compare those factors like cost, environmental impact, regulatory compliance, and whether what the community really wants when choosing the best approach. But before biosolids can be used or disposed of, they need to be processed. And one of the first steps is thickening and dewatering. So dewatering is the process where you're removing excess water from the sludge. Since raw sewage is mostly water, reducing its moisture content helps to lower the volume, making it easier to and cheaper to handle, store, and transport. It also helps prepare the materials for further treatment or final use, and it can also help to minimize odor by removing water, reducing volume. This step also reduces pathogens, again, creates a safer, stable, and reusable product. Thickening and dewatering are often lumped together, but they are a little bit different. Dewatering, again, is removing water from sewage. Thickening is increasing the solids concentration. So first, I have 4 different technology or common technologies listed on here. Gravity belt thickener is the first one. So this is a thickening process where a porous moving belt is used to drain water from the sewage sludge using gravity. The diagram on the right shows how the system works. It's efficient, relatively low energy usage, but it does require constant operation to be efficient and does require operator attention, or operators need to be pay attention of how much files are being fed and ensuring that it's operating efficiently. There's also centrifuges, which use high-speed rotating drum to separate solids from liquids using spinning or centrifugal force. It's very compact, used widely in larger systems, and as it can be automated, can handle large or high sludge volumes. And the diagram on the bottom shows how solids are separated in the centrifuge, but they do have higher capital energy costs. But they are more suitable in urban areas or urban systems where space is limited. Facilities can also have a belt filter press, which presses sludge between 2 belts to squeeze out water. It's very effective, often used in medium to larger treatment systems. They are less energy intensive than centrifuges, but again, similar to gravity belt thickeners, they do require operator attention. And then there's also drying beds, which are simple, passive systems that rely on evaporation and drainage to reduce the water content from sludge. These are more used in smaller or rural facilities, but they do require larger land area and warm and drier climates to work effectively. Once biosolids are dewatered and thickened, the next step is stabilization. This is the core treatment process that helps make biosolids safe for use for disposal. The main goal is to reduce pathogen levels, control odor, and eliminate, again, those vector attracting factors like flies and rodents. There's several common technologies used for the stabilization process. The first one is anaerobic digestion. So this is a process where microorganisms break down organic solids in an oxygen-free condition or environment. It's a widely used process, especially in larger treatment systems, and has the added benefit of producing biogas or reclaiming biogas, which can then be used for energy or in a sustainable method. There's also aerobic digestion, which is similar to the activated sludge process, where oxygen is used to support the microbial breakdown of organic matter. It typically requires longer retention time and is more common in smaller, medium-sized facilities where they may not be producing enough sludge to make the anaerobic digestion process more economical. Alkaline or lime stabilization is another method where lime or other alkaline materials are added to raise the pH to 12 or higher. This creates an environment where pathogens can't survive and helps to reduce odors. It's very simple to run and relatively cost effective. And then there's also composting, where dewatered biosolids are mixed with bulking agents like wood chips and then decompose aerobically. This results in a more stable soil-like product that can often qualify as Class 8 biosolids, making it suitable for land application. Composting is pretty popular because it produces a high-quality end product and works well for community scale operations. But especially if you're looking for high sludge volumes, aerobic and anaerobic digestion are probably more preferred. After biosolids are processed, to ensure that they are safe for use or disposal, regular sampling analysis is essential. Sampling is an important step to verify that wastewater treatment processes are working effectively, as it can help confirm that the final biosolids products meet those regulatory standards for that is safe for handling and safe for land application and disposal. Sampling methods typically involve devices like sludge samplers, which are used to collect grab samples or composite samples from various stages of the treatment process. These samples are then analyzed in a lab to assess their biological and chemical safety. Key pathogens to monitor for during sampling or analysis are, they include fecal coliform, which is a common indicator of fecal contamination and overall microbial safety. Salmonella, which is a well-known foodborne pathogen that has to be reduced to safe levels. And enteric viruses like norovirus, which are pathogens more resistant to environmental stress and require careful monitoring. Contaminant of concern also include heavy metals such as arsenic, copper, lead, zinc, selenium, just a bunch of metals. These must be kept below regulatory limits to prevent soil and water contamination. And emerging contaminants like PFAS and pharmaceuticals also are increasingly being studied due to their persistence in nature and potential health impacts when consumed through groundwater or through those crops. There are various recommended analytical methods depending on what you're analyzing for. For example, for pathogen detection, EPA method 1680 to 1682 is recommended, and for PFAS, EPA method 1633 is recommended. But the link on the very bottom of the slide will take you to EPA's page where various recommended sampling and analytical methods for sewage sludge are listed. Now, to ensure long-term success and sustainability, municipalities should have a best management practice or adopt best management practices for biosolids management. So just a couple best management practices that I saw online mentioned a lot. First, municipalities should have a long-term biosolids master plan. So a master plan serves as a roadmap for, again, navigating challenges like future regulation, changing regulatory changes, anticipating population growth, as well as rising operational costs. It should evaluate alternative processing technologies, different end-use options, and diversifying their management methods so utilities aren't vulnerable to, again, future regulatory shifts or capacity constraints. Planning ahead also means anticipating potential rules. Contaminants like PFAS are being considered and helps utilities to be ready to adapt when new standards are introduced. Second, municipalities should prioritize public outreach and communication. Public outreach, public acceptance is a huge essential factor for any biosolids program, and it helps engaging with stakeholders early on, especially farmers, landowners, local officials, can help build the trust and understanding. Municipalities can host facility tours and share informational materials to educate and involve the public about the benefits of biosolids while being transparent about, safety concerns, as well as the benefits that a biosolids management program can provide to a community. Third is to optimize treatment processes. So this includes continually improving existing stabilization methods and staying informed about innovative technologies such as pyrolysis, hydrothermal liquefaction, and supercritical water oxidation, which are technologies still being studied, piloted, but these are advanced processes that show promising for improved contaminant destruction, energy recovery, and reduced environmental impacts. And finally, utilities should maintain thorough records. Comprehensive documentation is key to demonstrating compliance, optimizing operations, and it does protect utilities from liability, especially if you're documenting everything. This includes tracking, where the biosolids go from the treatment plant to their final destination, keeping organized lab results, processing data, and maintaining detailed maps, loading rates, and cropping information for all plant application sites. So by following these best practices, municipalities can build resilient, efficient, and publicly supported biosolid programs. Now, navigating all those best practices might be daunting, especially for smaller and medium-sized systems. There are several national and regional organizations dedicated to supporting wastewater systems through research, policy development, and technical assistance that I also wanted to highlight. A few of the national groups include WEF, which is, again, the leading technical organization for wastewater sector. They do host an annual biosolids conference. They do have a residual and biosolids committee that does research. They do publication and promote best practices. WEF also manages the National Biosolids Partnership, which serves as an informational clearinghouse on effective biosolids practices to help biosolids management organizations improve their management program. Water Research Foundation is a nonprofit that funds and publishes, a bunch of wastewater research, including studies on biosolids treatment, reuse, and emerging contaminants. The National Association of Clean Water Agency, they're a different group, less research oriented, but they focus on federal policy and advocacy. They do help utilities stay informed and engage with changing biosolids regulations, or just regulations in general. And there's also the National Biosolids Data Project, which collects and analyzes biosolids data across the U.S., providing valuable insights into national trends that can help inform policy and planning. And for more regional groups, there's the Northeast Biosolids and Residual Association, which is well known for promoting education, research, and sustainable recycling practices for biosolids, especially in the Northeastern region. But similarly, there's also the Midwest Biosolids Association, which serves the Great Lakes region. They also promote sound biosolid management in those states. And specifically for Illinois, I did want to highlight the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center, or ISTC. It's another University of Illinois group, but they do a lot of wastewater research, including biosolids, and they do provide technical assistance to wastewater utilities, focusing on sustainability and beneficial reuse. So if there are any Illinois wastewater operators out there and interested in biosolids research, ISTC might be the first place to reach out to if you're looking for more information related to research. But certainly reaching out to the Midwest Biosolids Association or even the IEPA, they might be able to help you answer some of those questions you might have related to biosolids management. Now I'll go on. Now that I covered all the basic information about biosolids management and those that are involved, now I'll go over a number of public available resources that kind of expand on some of the previous slides or the information I covered, which might help utilities to better understand those specific areas of biosolids management and best practices. So the first three resources I want to highlight focus on helping utilities better understand the regulations. So the first resource listed here is a plain guide or plain English guide to the EPA Part 503 biosolids rule. It's an 183 EPA guide that provides comprehensive overview of the federal requirements of biosolids management. It covers information on pollutant limits, maximum allowable concentration of heavy metals and other pollutants, to ensure that biosolids are safe for land application or other disposal methods. It also reviews the pathogen reduction methods, which is required to reduce the pathogen level in biosolids to a lower safe level. It also details what the vector attraction reduction is, and how the process can prevent attracting those vectors that can transmit diseases. But this guide is really especially useful for operators or regulators and anyone just wanting to learn new to biosolids management who just want a clearer picture of those specific rules. I also have another document featured here, which is titled Guide for Land Appliers on Requirements of the Federal Standards for Use of Disposal Sewage Sludge. It's a 105-page guide, again from EPA, but this is more focused for land appliers, and it does break down, the Part 503 requirements for land application, and it does describe, 9 possible land application scenarios based on, the type of biosolids available and the quantity of biosolids, as well as the distribution methods. And it kind of includes a comprehensive list of those requirements for each scenario. So if you're a land applier and you're kind of interested to learn more about the technicalities that involve with land application, this document can help you kind of understand what the different scenarios are and the land application process involved in those different scenarios. Again, these are relatively old documents, but they do include great information and excellent tools for planning and ensuring regulatory compliance with biosolids land application. While the land applier applier guide is more geared towards municipalities. EPA also has a process design manual for land application of sewage sludge and domestic septic. This is a 301-page manual, provides guidance on planning, designing, and operating biosolid land application project, especially useful for utility managers and engineers who are working to implement or improve their biosolids programs. So the major focus on this manual is, again, site evaluation selection, choosing where the best location of land application is. It also provides detailed design guidance for different land use, with chapters that walk through the regulatory requirements, different application rates depending on the land that you're applying to, design consideration for different land application scenarios. Just a lot of great information on there. And for those looking at the operation side, the manual does also cover the best way for transporting, storing biosolids, as well as the best application methods, including what equipment is used, how the different loading rates affect application, as well as basic best practices. It also outlines the monitoring and sampling requirements as part of the Part 503 rule. So overall, this manual is pretty useful, especially if land application is your goal, and it does efficiently include information on compliance with federal regulations. Now, if you prefer a more concise resource covering information about land application, I would recommend checking out EPA, one of EPA's fact sheet, land application of biosolids. It's a 9-page fact sheet. It's much shorter. It's much more concise on the land application practices that are covered. It highlights the benefits of land application, which includes nutrient recycling and soil improvement. It also includes common land application methods and considerations for site selection. It's just a great starting point for new operators that are new to land application, or anyone familiar with biosolids land application in general. Additionally, since the fact sheet does promote public acceptance as well as education as an important part of a successful land application project, it can serve as a good resource to promote using or to use as public outreach to educate the public about what exactly is land application. The second EPA fact resource listed on here is a 41-page guide on understanding lagoon requirements under Part 503. So this is a relatively newer guide, which focuses on best management practice for sewage sludge removal from lagoons. Previously EPA didn't have any information about sludge management in lagoons, so I didn't want to highlight this. It does walk through how to establish a lagoon sludge removal project, including how to plan and permit that, how to conduct infrastructure assessments, cost considerations of sludge removal, and it does also highlight funding opportunities that might help those lagoon systems with managing their sludge, and how to stay compliant with Rule 503, especially if they're going to be land applying that sludge. So the guide aims to provide a clear understanding of the requirements as they apply to lagoons, and it does provide that practical guidance on sludge removal for those systems. I also wanted to highlight these two manuals developed by the National Biosolids Partnership, which covers best practices to develop a biosolids management program. So the first one listed here is the National Manual of Good Practices or Good Practice for Biosolids. It's a 339-page manual. It's very extensive, but it's designed to help biosolids producers develop and optimize their biosolids program by focusing on those good practices throughout the treatment and management process. So it includes information on how to improve public acceptance by highlighting environmental success of a certain biosolids program. It also includes information on the environment management system framework, which is a framework that encourages biosolids producers to voluntarily go beyond minimum regulatory compliance, which kind of helps improve public acceptance as well, because you're showing the public that you're trying your best to protect the environment. The manual also outlines the good practices covering every aspect of the biosolids management, which can help utilities assess how their operations compares, maybe find out areas where they might be lacking, where they can improve by implementing those good practices, and strategies for utilities to gain and maintain public acceptance, which is often key for or a key challenge for a lot of biosolids programs, as if they don't have public acceptance, it might be harder to dispose or repurpose those biosolids. The second resource is the Biosolids Management Program Guidance Manual. It's a 331-page guide, and it provides a more practical how-to framework for developing a formal biosolids management program. It's built around this plan, do, check, act framework, which is a systematic approach to plan, implement, evaluate biosolids processes. It highlights the 17 core elements that form the foundation of a comprehensive biosolids management program, which includes training your operators, performance tracking, and stakeholder engagement. But both of these manuals, they offer valuable information and guidance for utilities looking to improve their biosolids program to meet regulatory compliance and to help improve those community perspective as well as meet community expectations for biosolids management and those environmental goals. There's a lot more resources features on WEF's partnership page, which I do have a link of on the bottom. Definitely worth checking it out. There's a lot more recent resources developed by those partners on that website. The next few slides will highlight individual biosolids technology fact sheets that EPA has published between 2000 and 2006. And again, while these resources are a bit dated, they do provide useful technical and practical information on those common biosolids stabilization and dewatering technologies. So the first one listed here is a 13-page fact sheet on multi-stage anaerobic digestion. So this is the process where you separate the acid-forming and methane-forming stages of digestion, which improves the efficiency and energy recovery compared to a single-stage system. It stabilizes biosolids while producing biogas, which is primarily consisted of methane and carbon dioxide that can be captured for renewable energy purposes. But because of the added complexity, it's generally a more practical for larger facilities. But the fact sheet includes case studies from DuPage County, Illinois, as well as Waterloo, Iowa, which show how these systems can reduce odor, improve performance, and generate energy for those utilities. The second one I have listed here is for odor control and biosolids management. Again, 16-page fact sheet. It's much shorter than some of the more lengthy technical resources, but it explains where odors originate from biosolids, how they can be measured, what technology is available for odor control, ranging from chemical additives to aeration to using biofilters. It also provides process management strategies operators can use to minimize odors through operational changes. It also highlights cost considerations and public acceptance issues, because again, the odor issues are one of the higher reported challenges for land application usage. The next two EPA fact sheets are on two additional biosolids stabilization methods. The first is a 9-page fact sheet on alkaline stabilization of biosolids. So again, this is the process of using materials like lime or ash to raise the pH, which creates a condition where pathogens can be inactivated. This process can also help to control odor and stabilize the biosolid itself. But the fact sheet outlines how the process works, the advantages and disadvantages, such as it's a simple and effective, but does have issues with handling and the end users of the treated products. Applications include use of soil amendment, alignment agents for acidic soils, and land reclamation of landfill cover. But the fact sheet outlines again how the alkaline stabilized biosolids can be used, whether it be land application or different purposes. The second one I have listed here is composting of biosolids. So again, composting, this is the biological process to convert biosolids into material that can be easily handled, that can be used as a high quality soil conditioner or fertilizer. The fact sheet explains the three primary composting methods: aerated static pile, windrow, and in-vessel composting. It also highlights operating considerations, especially the use of bulking agents like wood chips to maintain the proper carbon nitrogen ratio that composting requires. So for example, for in-vessel composting, where biosolids are placed in enclosed containers like silos or drums, which allows precise control over temperature, moisture, and aeration, resulting in faster and more efficient composting. But again, if composting is a goal, this fact sheet outlines the operational considerations and the different types of composting. Here is a consolidated list of the EPA fact sheets on dewatering technologies. I didn't want to go over one by one each since I've already covered the basic processes of these processes in the previous slides. But all of these fact sheets, they do include advantage and disadvantage of each method to help operators quickly compare the different dewatering options. So for example, centrifuges are compact and require minimal operator attention once running, but they come with high capital costs, noise concerns, and significant energy use. Um, each fact sheet is focused on a specific dewatering technologies, and they're pretty consistent in format. So they all list advantages and disadvantages, which I do have listed on this slide. It also includes process descriptions, performance data, design and operational considerations, as well as what kind of systems would be applicable to use these processes. So these fact sheets are excellent resources for evaluating upgrades, planning new installations, or simply understanding how different technologies perform in real-world conditions. Now, aside from that application, incineration and landfilling are the two other primary methods used to dispose of biosolids. This slide highlights two EPA fact sheets that provides detailed guidance on these processes. So the first fact sheet listed here is the use of incineration for biosolids management. It's it's a 14-page fact sheet which explains how incineration works as a high-temperature thermal process that converts dewatered biosolids into ash. It covers two main categories: multiple hearth furnace, which are cylindrical units containing stacked chamber where sludge is treated in different stages, and the fluidized bed furnaces, which are more common in newer facilities due to their higher efficiency and better emissions controls. These systems incinerate biosolids by injecting them into a bed of sand that is suspended, and when mixed by using air, organic material basically combusts immediately and then turns them into sterile ash. This ash can then be repurposed as construction material or again disposed in landfills. And speaking of landfills, the second fact sheet focuses on landfilling as a management option for biosolids. The fact sheet highlights two methods: monofilling, which uses a dedicated landfill just that only accepts biosolid, as well as co-disposal landfilling, which is where biosolids are mixed with municipal solid waste and placed in a standard landfill. The fact sheet outlines or highlights considerations like what sites would be the best for landfilling, or which landfilling sites would be best to choose, as well as design considerations of landfills. I know we covered a lot of fact sheets, but these are great resources, shorter resources that provide a lot of technical and operational information for processing and disposing biosolids, which I highly recommend checking out. I also did want to highlight two PFAS-focused resources from EPA in relation to biosolids processing. The first is a 153-page guide called the Interim Guidance on PFAS Destruction Disposal. So this is a more recent comprehensive guide that EPA published for a broader audience. It provides technical overview of commercially available options for managing PFAS or PFAS-containing materials. The document covers three main methods: thermal treatment, which includes processes like incineration, pyrolysis, and gasification. These methods can break down PFAS at high levels using higher temperature. Landfilling, which focuses on, again, containment strategies for PFAS and solid waste, as well as disposal of liquid PFAS waste through underground injection. But for biosolids, the thermal treatment step is the most relevant, and this guide does include a section on providing guidance on how biosolids should be, or PFAS-containing biosolids should be processed. And I also wanted to include this 3-page EPA fact sheet or research brief on pyrolysis and gasification, since that was mentioned. This fact sheet highlights the potential of this process as a promising technology for PFAS destruction, particularly in biosolids, and it details, how the thermal process breaks down organic matter and degrades PFAS compounds. The fact sheet does note that while results are promising, long-term operational data is still necessary to be recommended to utilities. But if you're starting to explore PFAS options, fact sheets like this or exploring EPA's research briefs can provide insight into different options for dealing with PFAS-laden biosolids. Now, changing topics, sampling is also a critical part of a biosolids management program. and there are several resources available to help operators develop and implement effective sampling plans. The first is the Wastewater Treatment Plant Operator's Guide to Biosolids Sampling Plan, which is published by NUIPIC, which is the New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Agency. This 168-page guide provides a comprehensive overview of how to create and carry out a biosolids sampling program, explains the process of a sampling plan, not only to ensure compliance with biosolids rule, but also supports process optimization and data quality. New England is the area where there's a lot more biosolids research going on. NUIPIC has been doing a lot more wastewater research around the New England area. They have a lot of great resources. This one technically it is free to access, but you do need to share a name and email address to download. I know some state agencies do have a copy of this straight on their website, but the link on the bottom here will take you to the NUIPIC page where you can actually access this document. But it's a really great guide. It highlights the key elements of a sampling plan, highlights sampling frequencies, locations to sample, what parameters to sample for. It also includes sampling and handling techniques that focuses on maintaining accuracy and consistency. So for those interested in developing a sampling plan, this guide does include a lot of great information, as well as reference to a sampling plan worksheet, which can help those using this guide to develop a sampling plan itself. And it also does highlight or include a completed sampling plan example sampling plan to guide utilities that are working on a sampling plan. And a second resource I've listed on here is the New Jersey Sludge Sampling and Analytical Guidance document developed by New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. This is a 71-page manual designed to help treatment plant operators collect reliable and consistent sludge samples. And it also includes information on developing sampling plan and details good sampling procedures. Again, focused on consistency and accuracy. So both are great use of resources to improve a sampling plan. I know the New Jersey one might contain state-specific information, but majority of the information is pretty broad as well, which can be implemented by any state. I also wanted to highlight two guides that focuses on sampling PFAS in biosolids. As PFAS concerns continue to grow, more states are developing their own guidance to help wastewater operators sample and analyze biosolids for these contaminants. The first resource I've listed here is the Biosolids PFAS Sampling Analysis and Reporting Guidance. It's a 12-page guide from Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and it outlines the PFAS sampling requirements for biosolids. Intended for land application, so EPMS 1633 is referenced a lot. It also includes a sampling plan and guidance to help utilities collect appropriate samples for PFAS. Because PFAS sampling is a lot more rigorous than just regular sampling. There is a concern about cross-contamination to prevent PFAS or prevention during PFAS sampling. You can't wear nylon. You can't wear certain types of plastic clothing or clothing that contains plastic materials. You also can't even use sunscreen sometimes. It's very arduous sampling for PFAS, but all the restrictions this guide does highlight. It also includes sample analysis methods and guidance in assessing sampling results. So it's especially useful for operators in Minnesota, but again, the practices can be adopted broadly. The second resource is titled Biosolids PFAS Sampling Analytical Analysis Plan for Colorado. Again, a state-specific resource developed by Colorado Department of Public Health Environment. It's a 15-page guide designed to help samplers collect Colorado-specific data on PFAS and biosolids. So this is to help the agency themselves track PFAS occurrence within their state, tracking concentration and potential sources using consistent method to ensure consistency. Guides like this can help improve accurate data collection and support statewide PFAS monitoring. So for a state agency, this might be a useful resource to compare and develop something similar for their specific state if they want to track PFAS in a consistent method throughout their state. Another important factor that makes a good biosolids management program is public communication to help utilities and wastewater professionals navigate the challenges of public outreach. WEF and National Association of Clean Water Agencies each has a communication toolkit focused on biosolids. So the first one is the Biosolids Communication Toolkit from WEF. It's a 68-page guide designed as a do-it-yourself resource to help wastewater professionals build a strategic, proactive outreach plan. It focuses on communicating about biosolids in a way that's factual, science-based, and easier for the public to understand. It helps utilities develop a strategic communication plan, helps guide them to engage with the media as well as their communities, tips for handling difficult conversation or questions, and examples of social media posts and fact sheets that can be shared with their public to engage them. The second resource on the slide is the Communications Toolkit for PFAS and Biosolids from the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. It's a toolkit that's tailored to help utilities, proactively communicate about biosolids in the context of PFAS. The toolkit, which is on their linked page, includes various fact sheets, biosolids fact sheets, talking points, resources for working with, again, the media, social media graphics that can be shared with the public, and any kind, as well as messaging guidance that is geared specifically towards the public that can help design in a way to help gain their support through online outreach. Now, if you're someone that prefers to learn about these information through presentations or webinar recordings, I do have a few webinar recordings I also want to quickly highlight. The first is the Navigating the Evolving PFAS Landscape and Biosolids Management webinar, which was hosted by EFCN. It's a 50-minute webinar, which provides a comprehensive overview of the current challenges, regulatory developments, and the research efforts related to PFAS and biosolids. This is a fairly recent webinar from 2025, but the webinar includes an overview of EPA's PFAS strategic roadmap, which includes the information on development of a draft risk assessment for PFAS in biosolids, which EPA did release earlier in this year in January. It does reference that and kind of explain what it's meant for if you're interested in learning how to use that document or the risk assessment document. The webinar also discusses the designation of PFOA and PFAS as a hazardous substance under the CERCLA Act, which introduces mandatory reporting requirements, which may impact biosolids management as well as monitoring. And the webinar kind of highlights how this new designation might impact those land appliers or as well as anyone that might be producing biosolids. And the webinar also highlights the National Collaborative PFAS Study, which is a multi-state research effort in evaluating PFAS mobility in biosolids biosolids. But again, it helps you understand what the current research is in regards to assessing how PFAS can move throughout biosolids when once land applied in soils. So this webinar is a great resource for understanding how PFAS regulations are evolving and what that means for a biosolids program. Here are two webinars. They're actually a two-part webinar series from EPA that's more focused for wastewater operators wanting to learn more about just biosolids management in general. The first is part one of the webinar series, and it's an 80-minute webinar that's ideal for those looking to understand the regulatory framework behind biosolids management. The webinar provides an overview of the history and structure of the biosolids rule, EPA's biennial review process to evaluate, new pollutants like PFAS, how to enter monitoring data into EPA's net bio database to maintain compliance with reporting requirements. And the webinar also highlights common compliance issues like incomplete reporting, pollutant limit exceedance, and sampling errors, which operators should look out for. So again, it just helps you better understand the regulations affected, by they need to monitor and report biosolids usage. And it also helps understand those operational challenges and compliance issues that many utilities are facing. Part two of the webinar, which features real-world case studies of biosolids disposal methods from 3 utilities. It's meant to be more of a to highlight those different biosolids management programs. It showcases 3 systems. One of them is from Des Moines, or one of them is Des Moines Metro's land application practices, where it highlights their nutrient management efforts, their GPS tracking system to to track where biosolids are being land applied. The webinar also features Dublin San Ramon's service district's lagoon-based treatment system and their dedicated land disposal site, where they're focusing on odor control of their sludge disposal and groundwater protection being their main goals. The webinar also highlights New Water in Wisconsin, which presented a high-tech incineration and energy recovery system to manage their local utilities biosolids. Each case study that's reviewed does include details on facility operation, key practices, the challenges faced, and how each utility ensured compliance and sustainability. EP also has various other biosolids focused webinars that are definitely worth checking out as well, along with these two, but these two are the more relatively newer webinars that EP has published. But they are still publishing webinars from this year, and on their EP's designated biosolids webpage, they do have a specific webpage just for webinar recordings where you can find them, as well as get information on upcoming webinars that might be related to biosolids research. So those were some of the resources that I wanted to highlight today. I'll move on to the demo portion of the webinar now. But again, hopefully these resources can help you better understand biosolids management and can act as a guidance as what kind of resources are out there and how you can search help you search for similar types of resources. But for the demo portion, very quickly, so this is our website, how our website looks like when you get on our website. Wateropera.org is our URL, as expected. Once you get to our page, you'll see this front page. There is no login or sign-in required. You can just get on the website and just access all of the tools that our website offers. So I'll start off by showing a demo of the resource library or the documents library tool that we have. To access that page, you'll want to look at the resource library menu on the top. If you hover your cursor over that specific menu where that's covered in that red rectangle, you will get a submenu pop up that shows like this. Within that submenu, you'll see a document search or search for document option. You want to go ahead and click on that text to access the resource library page. And clicking on either of those options won't work, but once you do, you will be sent to this page. And you should see this gray color search module as shown on the slide. There are 3 components to the search module that users can interact with. The first is the drop-down option, which says select on the left side. This is where you can select the main filters used to populate the module, and with search results catered to your search criteria. There's also a keyword filter text box where you can search for terms that aren't covered within those drop-down filters. And finally, there's the retrieve documents button on the bottom, where once pressed, it will actually run the search after all the filters and keywords are selected. I will also add that we do have a video tutorial showing how to navigate the search module as well, in case anyone needs a recap on how to use this tool. But you can find that and access that video at the top where it says watch our video tutorial. If you click on the select drop-down option, you will see these 4 individual filters that are available to choose from. Once you select a specific filter, a new list will show up directly under that select drop-down menu with sub-filters that fall under that main filter. So, for example, the first filter here is category, which are the 30+ water and wastewater related categories, which I showed on the part chart earlier. Once you select category as the filter, a new dropdown with those 30+ categories will be available where users can select a specific category. The second filter type shown on here, or second filter listed on here, is type, which can be used to search for specific types of resources. So if you only want to search for fact sheets or manuals, you'll be able to select that appropriate filter to only see those resource type. The third filter is the state filter. So if you want to search for resources more catered to a specific state or specific state operations, such as case studies from certain states or resources that follow state regulations, you can utilize this filter. And the last option is host, which is the organization that has developed or is hosting the resource. Once you select host, you'll be able to choose from a list of organizations like EPA, WEF, or EFCN, or other organizations that we have catalog resources from. Once you select one of those 4 filters, you will have an option to add 2 additional filters to refine your search. But I will note that you will only be able to use the same filter type once, or you'll only be able to use a single filter type once. So if you choose category, you'll only be able to use the type, state, and host filter. You can't search using multiple categories, but that's why we do have a keyword filter text box to navigate those drawbacks. So since this presentation is focused on biosolids management, let's try to search for resources related to that topic. We can simply type that search term into the keyword, or if you know something more technical, like if you're looking for pyrolysis, you can enter that into the keyword. But one of the existing category is biosolids, so let's go ahead and select that. So to be able to do that, you want to first select category as the filter that you want to choose from the drop-down menu. And when you do, as you can see in the screenshot, once the category option was selected, a new list has now popped up with the list of categories. You can scroll through the lists until you find the one that you're looking for, in this case, biosolids. They are listed alphabetically, so it will be one of the very first few categories listed. And as shown here, it's the first option on this drop-down menu. Once you select the term biosolids from the category list, you can then click on that option within the drop-down menu, which will highlight it in blue to show you that it's actually been selected. Then if you click on the Retrieve Documents button, it will actually run the query or run the search, and the results will show up directly under that search module. And as you can tell in this screenshot, the search results have populated, and it says that there are 432 total records with 44 pages of search results. If you look at the very top, you can now also see that there's a second option second drop-down option that you can add. Again, this is where you can add hosts if you're looking for resources on biosolids from a specific host. You could choose state if you're looking for biosolids focused resources from a certain state, or you can use type to find certain type of biosolids resources. But in this case, there's 44 pages of results that you can sift through. Each page has 10 results, but you can navigate that using the next page, previous page option on the right side there. So let's say we wanted to search biosolids management resources from US EPA. We can go ahead and activate the second drop-down menu, which will now only show 3 filters, excluding the category filters. We can choose the host filter from there, since again, we're looking for EPA-related resources. And once you select host, you'll see that list of organizations to choose from. And from that list, once you find US EPA, you can click on that, retrieve documents, and which will update the search. And this is how it will look like once it's done. Again, you can tell that the host was selected, EPA was selected from the host, and now we've reduced our search results from 432 to just 64. Now, that is still a decent amount to go through, but 7 pages, that might be something that can be doable. How do you decide whether a resource is something you might be interested in looking for? Well, each result or each entry is provided with a summary of the resource. So, it's in the format of this 2-page fact sheet, provides, specific information on blah, 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 blah. We also have a title that's the title of the document, which also includes a link to the resource. So if you click on the link or the title, it should send you to the host organization's website where the document is, and it should load the document itself. We also do include a link to the repository. So this is the page where we originally found the document itself. So if the link to the document dies, you might be able to go to the repository link, find out similarly related documents, as well as potentially figure out whether there's a working link on the repository page. Now, if we look at result number 6, it's kind of cut off, but that's you can kind of see the title in the screenshot. That's the EPA guide to understanding the Part 503 rule. So, if you're someone that's looking into learning more about the regulatory requirements of the biosolids rule, this might be a document you might be interested in. And if you click on the link, this is how the pop-up looks like. It will open up the document. And we always do try to use the host link. We try not to host ourselves because, again, we're trying to link you back to the host organization's website. Alternative, you can also try to search the title of the document in the search engine if you know the title of this document and you wanted to access that document immediately. But yeah, if you have any questions, if you have trouble finding certain documents, you can always reach out to us. We'll try to help you find that certain information. If you notice that some of the links we have are dead, definitely reach out to us and we'll try to get those links fixed. But very quickly, just to finish off the documents demo, here's an example of using just a keyword. Because, if you just use the keyword pyrolysis, that is more niche. It shows us that there's only 8 records, so this might be easier to go through the search results. So just using the category might be limiting. So a combination of categories as well as keywords, as well as other filters will help you refine your search better. I also mentioned that we do have a nationwide events calendar tool where operators can use to search for various training opportunities. I know I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to quickly go over this demo as well. So to access our calendar page from our front page, you just have to click on the calendar option at the menu very top. And once you do, you will be sent to this page with a similar gray search module as to the one on the documents page, but with an empty calendar. So if you click on the select drop-down menu, you will find the 4 similar filters that we highlight the documents library has. We have category, which again are the 30 plus bottom wastewater related categories. Type, so this is in sub-document type. It'll be event types. Are you looking for webinars? Are you looking for conferences? Are you looking for a certification exam? There's also state. In this case, would be states where the specific event is pre-approved in, or the state where the event takes place in. And there's also a host, or in this case, the sponsor, which is the organization that's sponsoring the event. So, so this is how it looks like once the select drop-down menu is selected. Again, looks very similar to the documents library. We also have a keyword filter if you're trying to find a specific event covering a topic that you can't choose with the given filters. So for the example, since we're in Illinois, let's see what events are currently available for Illinois operators are approved in Illinois. In that case, we can choose the state filter. And from there, you can choose Illinois, and it will automatically populate the calendar once selected. And you can tell that this is how the view looks like once populated for the month of August. Very quickly, on the right side, there is a clear filter and a view list option now. The view list option will give you the listing of events, not in a calendar view. So, if you're someone that doesn't like sifting through different months of the calendar, click on the view list. It will give you all the listing of the training at once. If you notice, some of these events only show the acronym of the organization and not the full event name. That's because there's too many events for a given day. It just shortens the event name into just the acronym. If you click on the view list, it will show the full event title. But if you hover your cursor over any of these, it will give you a pop-up of the actual event name. But here is how it looks like when you click on the view list. Again, it's just a little bit easier to look at all the training lists at once. But if there's an event that interests you, for example, this August 20th, Central States Water Environmental Association training on wastewater disinfection. If this is a training that if this is a topic that you're interested in, if this is the day that you actually have available to do this training, it is an online training since it says live online as the city. So you don't have to necessarily travel anywhere. But if this is an event you're interested in, you can click on the event title, and it will give you additional information on that specific event. So start day, time. If it was an in-person event, it will show the location information as well. Link to where you can register. Links to agendas if there's a separate link for that. The details section includes information on what you're going to learn, what operators will learn, what an operator would benefit from attending an event like this. We also include contact information. So if you have questions about the event that needs to be addressed to the event organizer, it's easily available there. We also include the cost for the event, training event, as well as continuing education credits offered and what states they're accepted in. We also have an option to add 2 additional filters similar to the documents library. If you're looking for just webinar opportunities, that is an option that you can do as well, which is shown on this slide. And so in this example, I actually chose the biosolid category, and I chose, I want to look for webinars related to biosolids. Here are the available events. And if you go to the September month, there's actually a new EPIC event on biosolid management practices that's coming up. This is virtual. It does cost money. It only offers credits to those New England states. But if you're trying to learn more about biosolids management, these might be, and you're looking for a webinar, these might be the type of events that you might be exploring. But using these search filters, you can find these type of events easier than just Googling those search results or trying to Google for these kind of events. And again, similar to the document side, if you have trouble finding certain events, like even a certification certification exam prep classes. We do get a request a lot for that to help find. Reach out to us. We'll try to help you find those opportunities within your state. And just to finish up the presentation, I just want to briefly go over some of the other resources we offer. We do have a blog page where we highlight recent news, or we're focused on a single topic and showcase resources related to that topic. Here's an example of one of the Biosolids focus blog posts we do develop. But if you're interested in keeping up to date with some of the documents that we enter, some of the upcoming regulations, definitely check out our blog post. On the right, if you access our blog post, you can actually find that through our resource library menu that's shown on the left screenshot. We also have 3 newsletters that we send out monthly or bi-weekly electronically through this program. The first is our most popular Water Operator bi-weekly newsletter, where we highlight, again, recent news, funding opportunities, upcoming free events, as well as resources that we've added to our library. We also have an innovations for small systems newsletter, which is our monthly newsletter where we highlight recent news on innovations, research studies, pilot studies that's been done by the water and wastewater industry. If you're interested in learning more about biosolids focused related research, this might be a newsletter you might be interested in subscribing to, because we do cover wastewater, especially biosolids related research as well. We also have a tribal newsletter that is geared more towards our tribal operators, but all 3 newsletters cover drinking water, wastewater, as well as on-site wastewater topics. And you can get to our newsletter page through the top menu bar option, which says newsletter. And you can also see our past newsletter archives if you click on the see recent issues of our newsletter. And I also want to finally touch on our self-paced classes that we offer. So we're not a training provider. We don't do regular training, but we do have these self-paced classes. Our groundwater and well care class is our most popular class. It's free, it's online, it's self-paced. It can help operators better understand how to maintain and take care of their groundwater wells. It's the only training which has been pre-approved to provide training hours for operators in various states, including Illinois. We have 2 additional self-paced trainings, which we developed for Mass DEP in collaboration with UMass on cybersecurity and source water protection. These are also free, but the source water protection training will only offer TCHs to Massachusetts operator, and the cybersecurity training is only approved in Massachusetts as well, or Massachusetts as well as New York. However, we've had great feedback about these trainings, and if you're new to cybersecurity or if you're interested in source water protection, definitely check out these self-paced classes. It's free. Again, it's a great resource to check out. So that concludes my presentation today. I know I kind of went over a little bit, but if you get a chance to use wateropera.org and run into any questions, again, please feel free to contact me or my supervisor, Steve Wilson. Our emails and phone numbers are shown here. If you scroll to the bottom of our website also, you can find our contact information there as well. I covered a lot of resources today with a lot of links on a lot of the slides. If you'd like a copy of this presentation as well, email me and I will be more than happy to send you a copy of it so you can easily access the resources mentioned today. And again, if you have any specific questions about the resources highlighted, direct it at me as well. I guess at this time, Jennifer, if there are any questions, I'd like to give a minute or 2 to answer those.
We had some questions about getting a copy of the slide deck, and I directed those individuals to go ahead and email us at info@wateroperator.org to request those. And then maybe some more technical questions that they're also going to contact us directly with, because I didn't think we'd be able to give them the best advice on here. But if anyone else does have a question, we'd be happy to see if we can address it.
Awesome. Yeah, we can give it a minute or 2 to see if anyone wants to add any questions. But just like Jennifer mentioned, some of those very technical questions, we definitely might not be able to answer those, but we do leverage our RCAP technical assistant providers who are our partners. They might be able to, they have a lot more experience working, doing assessments, providing technical assistance at water and wastewater treatment facilities. They'll have a lot more knowledge, and we do leverage their expertise from time to time to help answer so it's more technical questions. So even if they're super technical, feel free to email us. Feel free to call us or ask them today, and we'll try to get those answered, or we'll try to reach out to our partners that might be able to have the technical expertise to be able to answer those questions. All right. Well,
nothing else has come in, so.
Awesome. Well, I guess at this moment, we can go ahead and conclude today's webinar. Again, thank you for your time for sitting in. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to email me. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. So thank you for everyone's time, and I hope you have a nice rest of the day. Thank you all.